Fate has this way of playing tricks on us, doesn't it? One moment, everything seems perfect, and the next, the world flips upside down. The things you once loved suddenly start draining your energy, and what seemed like a dream turns into a nightmare. That's exactly what happened to me when one little game turned out to change everything. But let me start from the beginning to give you the full picture. Our family had been going strong for 6 years. I was the kind of husband that even my mother-in-law would call the perfect family man. At least, that's how she described me. My friends, on the other hand, joked and called me whipped. And honestly, they weren't wrong. I worked long hours, took on side gigs, and did overtime. All so my wife could enjoy fitness classes, manicures, and other activities whose names I could never remember. I also didn't bat an eye when the bank sent me notifications about funds being drained whenever Penelope went on one of her shopping sprees. We always vacationed wherever she wanted, even though I'd been dreaming of upgrading my car for years. But hey, don't get me wrong. I was perfectly content with this arrangement. I loved making her happy. Still, there was one thing that was just for me. When I was younger, I was crazy about football. I even played myself and showed some promise until a knee injury turned me from a player into a fan. But that didn't stop me from watching every game, whether on TV or at the stadium. Penelope, my beautiful wife, put up with it, but she always complained, "You never spend enough time with me." Then one day before a match, my wise wife dropped a bombshell. "I want us to go out together more often. But since you can't live without your football, I'll just come to the game with you." Now, I wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea, but I knew better than to argue with a storm named Penelope. I figured she'd get bored after one game and move on, right? Wrong. She actually got hooked. She quickly immersed herself in the game. I explained the rules to her, told her about each player, and drew attention to our captain, who was on a roll that day. Penelope looked at the captain and said, "It's a pity that you had to retire from football. You should be running, as fit and strong as he is." I just grinned. Before I knew it, Penelope had become a full-on football fan, showing up at every match with me, even when I went with my friends. After one game, she actually ran to get an autograph from a player, like some starstruck schoolgirl. I just smiled and waited for her in the stands. If you had told me before that my wife would become this passionate about football, I would have laughed in your face. But honestly, I was happy. We shared a new interest, and it gave us plenty to talk about. "Ready for what?" I asked, confused. "For the game. I saw you booked tickets," she said, grinning. "Oh, right. Thanks for the reminder. But we need to cancel the reservation. The boss gave me until 5 p.m. to redo the report. I won't make it if I go." "Cancel? No way. Harper and I will go. We'll go and sit somewhere. Not bothering you," she insisted. In 2 days, my wife and her friend would be off to the game alone. And there was no way I was comfortable with that. You know, anything could happen. But after some pleading and arguments for Harper's sake, I reluctantly agreed. Penelope left, and I got to work. The report wasn't as bad as my boss had made it out to be, and I finished quickly. Unable to resist, I opened up a live stream of the game on the club's website. I was half watching when the camera zoomed in on my wife in the stands after the captain scored a goal. She was alone, sitting in a VIP seat, blowing kisses to the scorer. She had no idea she was being filmed. A chill ran down my spine. It wasn't that something terrible had happened, but the feeling that something wasn't right settled in. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch. The game lost all its appeal, and I rushed to the stadium. I had to talk to the captain. I didn't know how, but I knew that there was a service exit from the locker room straight to the parking lot. That's where I decided to wait. Soon enough, the players started trickling out. It was hard to recognize them without their uniforms and names, but the captain stood out, especially because he wasn't alone. Laughing, my wife was walking with him, her arm linked with his. I nearly missed them in my shock. They were heading toward the car. What would you have done in my shoes? I couldn't hold it in anymore. The parking lot echoed with shouts and curses. It turned out they'd been seeing each other for a while, and Harper wasn't interested in him at all. She'd been covering for Penelope, pretending to be the one leaving, while Penelope had slipped the football player her number. It all started with her, not Harper. But here's the kicker. The football player wasn't all bad. Penelope had told him she wasn't married. She said I was her brother. Can you imagine? That betrayal stung so much I could hardly believe it. It was a double blow. And as you might expect, it wasn't just the game I lost that day. I lost both my wife and my once beloved hottie.